Okay, so this lesson is going to be about loops, which they let you repeatedly execute code, which becomes very important if you're trying to calculate really complex things. So I'm just going to write a simple for loop here. A for loop is just one of the two loop types in Python, but it's the one you see more commonly. So I'll say for x in, I'll say caret, and then I'll print x. So what this is going to do, it's going to go through all the characters in caret, and it's going to set it equal to x, and then it's going to print x each time. So CARROT. So each time this code, each time this print statement executed, it's called an iteration. It doesn't have to be a print statement for it to be an iteration. It's just any code inside of this for loop. So now let's try one with a list. I'm just going to keep that for loop there. I'm just going to define a list. I'll say cities equals London, Paris, New York, Seattle. So if I change caret here to cities, then it'll print out all the cities, because basically the special thing about data types like lists and strings is that they're iterable objects, which it basically means that they're composed of kind of smaller data types. So that lets them be iterated over very easily. So for this the cities one, it just has all these elements in it, all these cities that it can loop over. And then for a string, for example, if you take Seattle here, it has all these characters that are able to just be iterated over. So now let's use this range function here, which is pretty interesting. So I can say for x in range, I'll say 1, 10. So this range function, it just generates a list based on whatever parameters you enter. So you would expect this to give you a list from 1 to 10. But you see, if we print it, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and there's no 10. So the interesting thing about this range function is that this second number you put in, it's the number after the last thing in the list. So in this case, the last thing is 9. So this is 10. So if you want to have a list from, say, 1 to 100, you do 1, 101. And then if I do that, see, it'll print out all these numbers until 100. And there's also another interesting thing in this list, is there's also a third argument that it could take, which is the step. You don't really need it. It's by default 1, but if I change it to 2, you see it's jumped up by 2 every time, and it started at 1, so it went all the way up to 81, and then 83, 85, 87, and so on. So now let's kind of use more than the print in this loop. So let's say I just want to add all the numbers from, let's just say I'm going to get input from the user. I'll say input equals, oh, never mind, I'll say num equals input, for this integer first. So int input, just say enter a number. And then now I'll do for x in range. So I'll do 1 because I want it to start at 1, obviously. So in this, I'm just going to try to add all the numbers leading up to whatever number they enter. And then I'm just going to do num plus 1 for the second part of this range function, because like I said earlier, the second, or the stop point that you pass into this range function, it's just the number right after where it actually stops. So if I do something small, or actually I'm going to set answer out here equal to 0. So it's important that you so I'll do answer just plus equals x, and then after this loop's done, I'll print answer. So if I pick a small number, say 4, see, it'll give me 10, because 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 is 10. And it's really important that this answer variable is it's defined outside of this this loop here, because let's say I just put it here, and I'll say answer equals 0. And if I run this, I can enter 7, and it's just going to give me 7, which isn't right. So it's not right because it basically every time you iterate over it, this would set answer equal to 0, which you don't want, because your answer variable is accumulating over time in wherever you iterate. And just to show you guys the power that loops really have, I'm just going to put a very big number into it. So let's say I put just that, and then if I run it, just wait a little bit, it might take a little. Okay, so it seems like I put a number a little bit too big in there, so I'll just put in, I'll say 2 million. It's still pretty big. And then you see it gave me that answer pretty fast. And that was 2 million iterations in a couple of seconds. So that's just the sheer power that for loops can have. So now I'm just gonna show you guys dictionaries and loops. So I'll use the prices dictionary that we had before. Apple for 1.5. Grape, I'll say 8, and then banana, I'll say 2. And you could iterate over these too. So I'll say 4x in prices, and then for dictionaries, since well, you can do it like this in prices, and then print x. So this is just gonna print out your keys, but you can specify prices.values, and then it'll give you your values. So dictionaries are also iterable objects because they're just a combination of these key value pairs. So now let's look at while loops. So while loops, they are kind of similar to if statements in that they only execute if a certain condition is true. So I'm just gonna set a number equal to, I'll just set it equal to 0 for now, and then I'll do while num is less than 10. I'll say print num, and then num plus equals 1. Now let's see what this gives us. So you see it gave us 0, 1, it gave us all these numbers, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then after it printed 9, it added 1 to num. So num was 10. And then while it checked this statement right here, it said, well, it knew that num is not less than 10. So the while loop stopped executing. That's one way to stop a while loop. Also another way called a break statement. So in here I could just say if num is equal to 5, and then just break. And if I run this, you see it'll stop after 4 because when it printed 4 as num and then it added 1 to it, it went back through this loop and it saw num equal 5. So it actually did this break statement, which just breaks you out of the loop. It just stops it completely. So just these while loops, they're less common. In a bunch of games, you'll see while loops, but the for loops are much more common, and they're both very useful, like things to know.